They tased an 80-year-old black woman mourning her son. But what happened 8 minutes later shook the nation. She didn't remember how long she'd been sitting there, an 80-year-old woman, bent knees pressed to the cold sidewalk, a folded flag in her lap, and pain stitched into every breath. Her name was Evelyn May Ellis, and she had just lost her only son. That morning, Evelyn had walked nearly 2 miles, no cane, no coat, no phone, just her old boots, and the last thing the military ever gave her son. His flag. Neat, triangular, sacred. She cradled it like it might disappear if she let go, and beneath it, hanging from trembling fingers, were his dog tags, scratched, weathered, clinking softly with every shiver. She sat alone on the curb outside the Stonebridge police station, just a little old lady to most people passing by. Nobody stopped. Nobody asked, except one woman named Dana Qualls. Dana had been pulling out of the grocery lot across the street when she spotted Evelyn twitching gently, mumbling softly, rocking the folded flag like a mother might rock her child. Concerned, Dana called 911. "Hi, yes. There's an elderly woman outside the station. She looks confused, maybe agitated. I just thought someone should check on her." The call went out at exactly 11 a.m. 2 officers responded, Officer Chad Bannister, Officer Lisa Rainey. They were just around the corner finishing paperwork in their cruiser. When they arrived, Evelyn didn't even notice, not until Bannister's boots stopped inches from her. "Ma'am," he said, clipped and cold, "everything okay here?" She didn't lift her head at first, but when she did, her eyes were glassy and red. "His name was Desmond," she whispered. "My baby. He's gone now." Rainey stepped closer. "Ma'am, are you all right? Can you stand up for us?" Evelyn looked down at the flag. "They said it was instant, that he didn't suffer. That's what they say, when they don't want to tell you how bad it was." Bannister shifted. "Okay, you need to stand up. You're making folks nervous sitting like this." The dog tags slipped from her fingers, clinked against the pavement. She reached slowly, achingly, to pick them up. "Ma'am, get up now." Still, she didn't move. "I served," she murmured, voice cracking. "And so did he. We both gave everything to this country." Bannister's patience broke. He reached for his taser. "Last warning." Rainey hesitated, her face cracked slightly, but said nothing. And then the taser snapped. Electricity hit Evelyn's shoulder. Her body jolted. The flag flew from her lap and hit the ground. She collapsed, face first on the pavement, cheek bleeding, wrists cuffed, grief silenced. 8 minutes later, everything changed. A government SUV pulled into the station lot. Inside were Colonel Andre Wallace and Gunnery Sergeant Melissa Park. They were carrying the official military notification. They were coming to deliver the folded flag. But Evelyn had already carried it there herself. Colonel Wallace stepped out first. He saw the officers. Then he saw her. Face bloodied, hands cuffed, flag in a puddle. "What is this?" he barked. "That's Mrs. Ellis. We're here for her." "You tased her?" Melissa's voice cracked. "She's a grieving mother." "She refused to comply," Bannister muttered. "She was making a scene." Melissa dropped to her knees beside Evelyn. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Evelyn's lips barely moved. "They said Desmond gone." Melissa's eyes welled up. "You tased a mother holding her son's flag," she said to the officers. "Outside a police station." She turned to Bannister. "You didn't ask. You didn't listen. You didn't see a mother. You saw a black woman on the curb and assumed threat." Colonel Wallace stepped forward. "You know what 8 minutes cost you?" he said. "The rest of your careers." But the real reckoning hadn't even begun. That came that night. A 27-second video began to circulate online. Grainy, shaky, an old woman, Evelyn, lying on the pavement, blood on her cheek, a flag soaked in water, and someone whispering, "They tased her, even after she said her son died." By morning, Evelyn Ellis was the #1 trend on every platform. Veterans across the country posted pictures with their flags, and the world finally saw what Stonebridge had ignored. At the hospital, Evelyn lay silent in bed, bruises on her wrists, stitches on her face. She didn't say much, didn't cry. She just stared at the corner of the flag folded in her lap. Melissa sat beside her. She hadn't left her side since the night before. When Andre arrived with coffee, he leaned down. "You're not alone, Mrs. Ellis. Not anymore." Evelyn blinked. "I had one boy," she whispered. "One good boy. Never gave me trouble." Melissa gently touched her hand. "And now you have us," she said. "You'll never mourn alone again." Across town, the protest had already begun. It started with veterans, grew into hundreds. Signs read, "Grief is not a crime," and "Justice for Evelyn." One neighbor held up a photo of Desmond in uniform. "She raised him with love and discipline," he told the cameras. "Never caused trouble in this town, not once. And this is what she got, for sitting down to cry. If you tase a grieving mother holding a flag, you don't deserve the badge." That sentence echoed through the internet like a war cry. By morning, her name, Evelyn May Ellis, was everywhere. But back at home, Evelyn wasn't reading headlines. She was staring at old photographs. Photos of her son, Desmond, in uniform, his medals in a dusty frame, and a half-wrapped birthday gift on the couch, one she never got the chance to deliver. But there was one place she knew she had to go the next morning, a place she thought she'd never return to. The first time Evelyn wore a uniform, she was just 19, fresh out of Macon, Georgia. 1970. She served as a medical tech during Vietnam. Didn't talk much about it. But she kept the service ribbon tucked in her Bible, not for pride, for remembrance. She met her husband David at a veterans' breakfast years later. He was shy, steady. They married in 75. Had one child in 76. Desmond. Smart. Respectful. Her entire world. David died in 96. Heart failure. Evelyn never remarried. She used to say, "One great love is enough for one soul." After David passed, she raised Desmond on her own. Cooked every meal, ironed every shirt, attended every band concert and teacher conference. Desmond was quiet like her, but sharp, valedictorian, loved geometry. Evelyn called him her little blueprint. At 19, he sat her down and said he wanted to enlist. She blinked hard. "You sure?" she asked. Desmond just nodded. "I want to serve like you and Dad." She held her tears that night. Didn't sleep, but she let him go. Watched him graduate boot camp in full dress blues. He deployed to Iraq twice. Came back whole, changed, but solid. He planned to study architecture next. Even showed her sketches of the dream house he wanted to build. One-story, wraparound porch, space for grandkids. He never got to build it. That Tuesday, Desmond had driven up to Atlanta for a veteran workshop on sustainable building design. It rained. A semi jackknifed on I-75. Desmond's car was crushed on the driver's side. They said he died instantly. The news didn't go national. Just another local accident. But to Evelyn, it cracked the sky in half. The next morning, she folded his old service flag, pressed his dog tags into her palm, and walked 2 miles to the police station, looking for someone, anyone, to make it untrue. She didn't cry when they tased her. She didn't scream. She just broke, quietly. Now, days later, Evelyn stood outside her house again for the first time since the hospital. Same boots, same jacket. But something had changed. Inside the car, waiting to drive her, Melissa Park, the Marine who found her on the pavement, and Andre Wallace, the colonel who demanded accountability. They weren't there to arrest her. They were taking her back. To speak. Melissa handed her the envelope. Final service paperwork. A new ceremonial flag, untouched, perfectly folded. "We're meeting the chief," Melissa said gently. "You don't have to say anything." Evelyn looked down at the crisp flag, then up at the gray sky. "Oh," she whispered. "I'll speak." The town of Stonebridge was still reeling. What happened to Evelyn had set something off, not just a news cycle, but a mirror. Across Georgia, veterans gathered. At her son's old community center, a small wall had been created with Desmond's photos. One boy had written in crayon, "Mr. D taught me how to use a ruler. He said it's okay to ask questions. I want to be like him." Evelyn had read that letter in the hospital. She didn't cry. She just folded it neatly and slipped it into her pocket. Back at the police station, things were falling apart. Officer Rainey had gone quiet. She hadn't deployed the taser, but she didn't stop it either. She filed for leave. Officer Bannister? Still claiming protocol. Still blind to what he'd done. But now the nation was watching. When Stonebridge's mayor gave a press conference, he didn't even say Evelyn's name. Didn't mention Desmond. Didn't apologize. The crowd and the internet erupted. "You don't tase grief. Say her name. Evelyn Ellis. You ignored a mother. We won't." But something else was happening too. Something powerful. In Jacksonville, Florida, a woman named Julia Benedict sat on her porch, watching the video over coffee. She froze. She hadn't seen Evelyn in 40 years. They had served together in Vietnam. Julia was a nurse, Evelyn a medical tech. They'd lost touch after the 80s. Julia had assumed Evelyn had passed. Now she was watching her on the ground, a bloodied, cuffed, her son's flag in the dirt. Julia stood. Her mug fell and shattered. By 9 a.m., she had contacted 3 veteran groups, 2 journalists, and 1 friend at CNN. She wasn't alone. Across the country, thousands were calling, emailing, posting Evelyn's name. By noon, the American Legion had issued a formal statement condemning the police response, demanding an investigation, calling Evelyn a mother, a veteran, and a national example of dignity. Meanwhile, Evelyn sat in the same chair Desmond had used when calling home from Iraq. The flag sat folded beside her. She watched the press conference on TV. Melissa asked gently, "You all right?" Evelyn's eyes didn't move. Then, finally, she said, "They didn't see me." Melissa reached for her hand. "They do now." But recognition wasn't enough. Not for Evelyn. Not for Desmond. And definitely not for what came next. Because when Evelyn walked into that police station 2 days later, dressed in white, bruise fading, flag in hand, the city of Stonebridge didn't just see a grieving mother. They saw the reckoning she had become. But the stitches were still in. Her bruises hadn't fully faded. Inside the police station conference room, Evelyn sat straight-backed, flanked on her right by Melissa Park and on her left by her attorney, Terrell Baines, a calm, sharp former Army JAG who now fought civil rights cases with quiet precision. Across from her sat Police Chief Dobbins, hands folded. To his left, Officer Bannister, arms crossed, jaw tight. To his right, Officer Rainey, who couldn't seem to meet Evelyn's eyes. Terrell opened the folder on the table. "Before we begin," he said calmly, "Mrs. Ellis has prepared a statement." But Evelyn didn't read from paper. She didn't need to. She looked Dobbins in the eye. Then Bannister. "I came here," she said, voice steady, "because I didn't know what else to do. I lost my son. My only son. Got the call. Couldn't breathe. My house was too quiet, so I walked. She paused. Her hands didn't tremble. I walked with his flag. I sat where I thought someone would understand. But instead of a question, I got commands. Instead of a hand, I got volts. No one spoke. Evelyn adjusted the collar of her blouse. I did 20 years in uniform. My son almost 10. We bled for this place. Not because it's perfect, but because it was worth fighting for. And what did I get in return? Cuffed like a criminal, while my boy's name was still on my lips. Rainey dropped her head. Bannister didn't flinch, but Dobbins exhaled. "Mrs. Ellis," he began. "On behalf of the department?" "No," Evelyn said, cutting him off. "Don't read. Just say it." A silence. A long, hard silence. Then Chief Dobbins nodded. "You're right," he said, quietly. "You were failed, and we're responsible." It was the first time anyone in that building said those words. "I don't want a press conference," Evelyn continued. "I want change. Real change." Terrell slid a packet across the table. "Recommendations," he said. "De-escalation training, veteran and elderly crisis protocols, body cam review, and we're requesting Officer Bannister be removed pending investigation." Bannister stiffened. "I followed procedure," he snapped. "I didn't know who she was." "You didn't ask," Melissa shot back. "You didn't care to know." Rainey finally spoke, low, almost whispering. "I wanted to stop it, but I froze." Evelyn turned to her. "You didn't freeze. You watched." Silence. Dobbins picked up the packet. "I'll review it. I'll take it to the mayor personally." "No delays," Terrell said. "This isn't a suggestion." Bannister stood up. "You're going to hang me for doing my job?" "Sit down," Dobbins ordered, but Bannister's voice cracked. "I didn't know she was military." Evelyn stood slowly. "You think that matters?" she asked. "If I were just an old black woman, no uniform, no service, would I still have been on the pavement?" No one answered. Evelyn turned to Terrell. "We're done here." As she walked toward the door, Rainey stood. "Mrs. Ellis," she said. Evelyn paused. "I'm sorry. I didn't act, and I won't forget what that means." Evelyn gave her a long, unreadable look, then a single, slow nod. Outside, a small crowd had gathered. Neighbors, veterans, local reporters, no chants, no noise, just presence. Evelyn walked through them, slow, deliberate, Melissa at her side, Andre a step behind. "You sure you're okay?" Melissa asked. "No," Evelyn replied, "but I'm sure I'm not staying quiet." 3 days later, she wasn't in a conference room. She was in the front row of a packed town hall. The chamber was overflowing. Veterans in uniform, young families, students with signs. The live feed was streaming on dozens of phones. At the front table, a folded nameplate. Mrs. Evelyn M. Ellis, U.S. Army retired. Melissa leaned in. "You don't have to say much." "I want to," Evelyn replied. Mayor Leonard Gresham took the mic. He looked uncomfortable, like a man rehearsing humanity. "We're here today," he began, "to address a deeply troubling incident, an event that has brought national attention and, more importantly, hurt one of our own, Mrs. Evelyn Ellis." There was a murmur in the crowd. Some shook their heads. Some just listened. "We've reviewed body cam footage," Gresham continued. "We've read statements. We've met with legal counsel. This hearing is not just about accountability, but about ensuring it never happens again." Council members spoke one by one. Some apologized, others dodged. But all eyes kept drifting to Evelyn. When the floor opened for public comment, Donald Rivers, Evelyn's neighbor, stood first. No mic needed. "I've lived next to this woman for over 20 years, he said. If she's not safe sitting on a curb with a flag in her lap, then none of us are. Applause broke out. Someone shouted from the back, "Say that again!" More people spoke. Veterans, activists, even a teenager who came after seeing the video. But the room didn't go completely silent until Evelyn stood. She didn't rush, didn't stumble. She just made her way to the podium and looked out over the crowd. "I don't want pity," she said. "I want respect." She let it hang, let it land. "I've lived through war. I've seen things I'll never say out loud. But nothing prepared me for the pain of losing my son. And nothing prepared me for how I was treated when I tried to grieve." She held up a pair of dog tags. "This was my son, Desmond Clayton Ellis. Not a number, not a statistic. He served. He dreamed. He died before I could tell him I was proud." The air was thick. Even the cameras stopped panning. "You want to fix something?" she said, looking straight at the mayor. "Teach your officers to listen. Ask before they accuse. Help before they harm. You can't train empathy in a weekend, but you can require it." Then she turned to the crowd. "To everyone who showed up for me, thank you. But don't just stand for me. Stand for the next father, the next mother, the next human being who breaks down in public and deserves a hand, not handcuffs." The room erupted, but not with noise, with depth, with truth. That night, the city council voted. Officer Bannister, placed on unpaid leave, pending review. New training, approved. Veteran and elderly crisis protocols, implemented immediately. It wasn't full justice, but it was something. Later that night, Evelyn sat on her porch. Andre beside her. Melissa across. No cameras, just moonlight. She held Desmond's dog tags in her palm, clicking softly against each other. "I almost didn't say anything," she admitted. "Thought maybe no one would care." Andre leaned back. "They did, and they will." Melissa smiled. "You changed more than you know." Evelyn nodded slowly. "I just hope Desmond saw it." But she wasn't done yet. 2 days later, she stood alone in front of her son's grave. The cemetery was quiet. Just outside Perry, Georgia. Fresh grass, no fanfare, just one headstone. Corporal Desmond Clayton Ellis, 1982 to 2024, beloved son, Marine, dream builder. Evelyn didn't bring a flag. No speech, just one thing in her pocket, Desmond's house sketch. She rested a hand on the stone. "I tried to do right by you, son." She paused. "I didn't expect to outlive you. I don't think a parent ever does." Her eyes watered, but no tears fell. They rarely did. "I couldn't protect you from everything, but I made sure the world knows your name now, not because of what happened to me, but because of who you were." She pulled the sketch out, unfolded it gently, and laid it at the base of the grave. "You said you'd build this one day, so I will. For kids who need it, for veterans who don't have anywhere else." Behind her, soft footsteps. Melissa. "I figured you'd be here," she said. Evelyn didn't turn. "He's still with me." Melissa nodded. "And this town's not done talking about you either. They're naming the new park trail after Desmond." Evelyn chuckled softly. "He hated running." Melissa smiled. "Well, maybe now he makes everyone else run in his name." They stood together for a long, quiet moment. Then Evelyn said, "I've been thinking," Raymond said softly, eyes on the stone in front of him, "about starting something small." Melissa stood nearby, quiet. "Nothing fancy," Raymond added. "A place for kids like Desmond wanted, maybe a few workshops, a bed or two for veterans who just need to land." Melissa nodded. "That sounds like him. You'll need help." Raymond looked over. "I know. I'll find the right people." she said. "You already got a few." Back in town, Officer Bannister had turned in his badge. No cameras, no headlines. Just a short note in his locker. 4 words. "I should have known better." And Officer Rainey, she didn't ask to leave. She asked to try again. She transferred to the department's new Community Outreach Division. Her first assignment, meet with local veteran groups and help write the new crisis response protocol. Stonebridge, for all its flaws, was learning, trying. But Raymond wasn't waiting for the town to fix itself. He had work to do. 2 weeks later, in the back room of the town library, a small group gathered. Architects, social workers, veterans, nonprofit volunteers, coffee in hand, blueprints on the table, and Desmond's original house sketch pinned to the corkboard. Raymond stood in front of them. "We don't need it big," he said. "We just need it right." And from that pain, from grief, silence, and a flag once soaked in rain, something new began to grow. A place with no fanfare, no slogans, just a room for a grieving father, a porch where a vet could sit, flag in lap, and not be seen as a threat, a warm meal, a quiet class, a job lead, a place to be. Raymond didn't want a monument. He wanted momentum, not headlines. Healing. Because Raymond understood something many never do. Closure isn't forgetting, it's choosing to move forward, anyway. The final shot, Raymond on his front porch in that same weathered chair, no music, just birds, and the creak of wood beneath him. His hand dangled the dog tags, swaying softly in the breeze. Beside him, the American flag, now framed in glass. He didn't speak right away. When he did, his voice was low, gentle, raw. "I keep thinking about that curb, a place that should have meant safety, but instead, that's where I got hurt. That doesn't leave you. Not really." He looked down at his palm, one faint scar still there. "But I've learned something since. People are watching, even when it's quiet. You think you're invisible until someone sees you hurting." He raised his eyes. Still fighting. "After Desmond died, I stopped thinking about the future. I didn't plan the next day, I just walked, because that's all I knew how to do." He paused, took a breath. Now I wake up and try again." The camera cut to footage from the town hall, veterans saluting, a child laying flowers at Desmond's grave, a young student drawing a house, Desmond's design sketched across a whiteboard. I still feel the ache. I still hear my boy's voice in the silence. But I also see faces, strangers who stood up, neighbors who saw me, people who listened. Cut back to Raymond. "If you see someone in pain, don't look away. Don't assume. Ask. Listen. Sometimes grief wears a uniform. Sometimes it's just yesterday's clothes and a heart too heavy to carry alone." He paused, his eyes calm now. "I didn't ask to be seen, but I'm glad someone finally did." He stood, walked across his lawn, to the gate where Desmond used to park. The screen faded to black, and one line of white text appeared. "In memory of Corporal Desmond Clayton Ellis. Loved, missed, never ignored again." Then the narrator's voice, clear, gentle, purposeful. Raymond's story isn't just about a man and his loss. It's about how we treat each other when no one's watching. It's about the man on the curb and the choice we all have. See a threat, or see a human being. That line between the two, that's where dignity lives. The screen transitioned again, a quiet, still background. A phone number appeared, National Veteran Crisis Line, and a website link for support. If you or someone you know is struggling with grief, isolation, or just needs to be heard, don't wait. Reach out, show up, listen. Because silence doesn't mean strength, and grief doesn't make you dangerous. A pause, then one final line. For more real stories like this, raw, human, and true, Subscribe, share, and help make sure voices like Raymond's are never ignored again. The screen faded to black.